On that day, a number of those who were killed in Shushan, the citadel, were brought to the king. 12, verse 12, and it says, and the king said to Queen Esther, the Jews have killed and destroyed the 500 men in Shushan and the citadel, and the 10 sons of Haman were also killed, right? And it says, what have they done in the rest of the king's provinces? It says, now what is your petition? He asked the queen. It shall be granted to you, or what is your further request? It shall be done. Then Esther said, if it pleases the king, let it be granted to the Jews who are in Shushan to do again tomorrow according to today's decree, and let Haman's 10 sons be hanged on gallows. So the king commanded this to be done, and the decree issued in Shushan, and they hung Haman's 10 sons. Okay. So you have one man, and his name is Haman, right? And he tries to kill every Jew, right? But he's not successful. Hitler tried to kill every Jew. He's not successful. 10 of Hitler's top henchmen are hung. 10 of Haman's sons are hung. That would be a great parallel right there to say this is equivalent to that, right? Now, but if 1,500 years earlier, I'm able to put in the year that it's going to happen again in the book of Esther, means that not only did I make the events happen in the same way, but also I chose the year 1,500 years earlier. Okay? So now it means that God is directly involved in human affairs. You understand? That means the world is not just going by and going by. God is directly involved in human affairs. Okay? So we look at Esther, and we're looking at 9, okay? And verse 7 through 9, and it says, we find the list of the 10 sons, okay, of Haman, who were killed by the Jews. Below is the Hebrew text of this verse, which appears in the Tanakh.
What page are you on, Pastor?
I'm still on page 23 of our book, okay? Now, Jesus Christ says this. I was almost bent over. Jesus Christ says this. Not one jot or tittle from this word will pass until all of it has been complete, right? So, what is a jot or a tittle? We ask ourselves, right? Jots and tittles are different structures of the letters that God purposely put in the Torah, in the Tanakh, to tell you about something else, okay? So, I didn't get the scripture, but there's one time that Christ is talking about the Torah, the Tanakh is talking about the resurrection of the future coming Messiah. So God, as a jot or tittle, puts the nun, the letter nun in Hebrew, he puts it upside down, okay? And then at the end of that verse, God puts it right back up, right? So the letter nun is a letter for life, okay? So 14th letter is the letter for life. So he said it's going to be turned over. Then at the end of the scripture, he puts it where it's turned back up straight and regular. So it's like that's a jot or a tittle. What is that telling us? That the Messiah is going to die, then he's going to be resurrected, okay? So those are jots and tittles. There are many other jots and tittles in the scriptures that God uses, that he'll make a letter smaller or he'll make it huge. You understand? And sometimes he'll take a letter out, and that's a jot or a tittle. You understand? So in this verse where he gives the 10 sons, God makes these letters. Now look, when the scribes write the Torah, what are they doing? They have to write it exactly the way God wrote it. So you're looking at a manuscript that is the exact way that God wrote it. You can't write the script, you know, all the same size if God made one of them really small, you know. So when you have one like that, you say, okay, that's a jot or tittle. So you have the, in the first name, you have the het, and then in let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, seventh name, you have a shin, but you also have a tav, right? Then in the last letter, you also have the zayin, okay? So you have you have tav, shin, and tav, okay? And so now, and what we'll have to do is write the Hebrew years so that you can see that this, because of the positioning of it, is standing for 1946, okay? If you just took those letters out and placed them there, you would say, okay, that's for 1946. How would we know? The century, we would know the century and the year. It's 707, which turns out to be 1946, okay? Like we say 1948 is when the Holocaust happened, right? Or 1948 is when Israel went back to. Well, they're not going to write it as 1948. They're going to write it with Hebrew letters because their letters are numbers. Okay, so we see that the numbers, the letters that are set apart as jots and tittles, stand for the year 1946. So these 10 sons are hung, and the year that this event is going to happen again is in the Hebrew Torah, and you can see that it is standing for the year 1946. Now you won't discover it until it happens again, right? Because then once you go back and you go, hey, Haman's 10 sons were hung, and the last guy that got hung, what did he say?
He yelled out.
You guys should go read this.
Yeah.
As they're hanging him, he says, Purim Fest, 1946. He yells it out before he's hung. Okay?
Good.
Or Purim Feast, 1946, and then they hang him. So, that made people go back and look up what is the Purim Feast. And so when they went back to look it up, they saw that 10 people were hung. So that was strange, right? Because he's saying this is like Purim Feast, and he said it's 1946, and we're doing the same thing that happened with Haman. Yes, you are. But then when they begin to do the study of the jots and tittles in the name of Haman, they looked at, and it's the same year that is happening again. It's in the Torah. So now they had to sit back and go, wait a minute, God is directly involved in the affairs of man. Okay? So let's look at something else, that God is directly involved in the affairs of man. Okay. We see that the Jews came out of Egypt. Right? And what had to be destroyed before the Jews came out of Egypt? We talked about this at Passover, at the Shabbat, right? How many gods?
10 gods.
Had to, so there were 10 plagues, and there were these 10 plagues. After these 10 plagues, deliverance came to the Jewish people, right? Now, when these 10 sons are hung, deliverance comes to the Jewish people. When these 10 henchmen were hung, deliverance came to the Jewish people. You understand? Now there's one more time that 10 have to die before deliverance comes to the Jewish people. And what is that? The book of Revelation. Remember it says, and he gave power to 10 kings. Okay? The Antichrist gave power to 10 kings. This will be on your test. He gave powers to 10 kings. okay? And when Christ comes back, he destroys those 10 kings, okay? And so now 10 kings have to be destroyed before deliverance happens again, right? So so God has kept the same pattern. You understand? This is how you know God is in the process. When you see the process has a pattern, okay? 1/3 of every Jew dies. 1/3 of the Godhead dies on the cross. 10 sons are hung. 10 kings, 10 henchmen. You see all these patterns. 6,000 years deliverance happens, and then at the end of 6,000 year begins the millennium. Okay, completion is in 6. So we see Holocaust, 1939, 1945, 6. So what are we looking at? Patterns. Okay, patterns, and that's what we are going to be studying as we go along. Is when we get to gematria, then you're going to start seeing patterns, okay? Because the author has patterns, okay? When you get to gematria, then that's when you start seeing why all the numbers. Why did God create numbers? You create numbers to create a pattern, because numbers don't lie. You can use words, and sometimes you can distort a story, but you can't change what 10 plus 10 equals. You understand? You can't change it. You can change the numerical value. You can say 5 plus 5 plus 10, still 20. You know what I mean? You can go 2 plus 8 plus 10. But eventually, the equation of that is always going to be the same. And that's what you'll see when we get into gematria, that the whole Bible is written with these numerical patterns. And then so you'll start seeing a pattern throughout the whole scripture, okay? A pattern throughout the whole scripture. We might have to get that book so everybody follows. It's called Numbers in the Scriptures by C.J. Billinger. I think it's C.E. Billinger, okay. So, you guys have the, so that's it for today's study. But what I want us to do, where's my book at?
You said C.J. what now?
Billings?
Billinger is his last name. It's called Numbers in the Scriptures.
You said that's it for today?
That's the lesson for today. Now we got to do some Hebrew.
Do some what?
Now we got to do a little Hebrew. Because when we come back, okay, tomorrow I am going to give Pastor Ben, I'm going to email him a conversation in a restaurant. It will have 10 key words that you need to know if you're in a Jewish restaurant, okay? And nobody speaks English, okay? So you'll learn, what you'll get is how to say waiter, waitress, my bill, I'm ready to order, mitugan, whether you want it fried, you don't want fried, does this come with that? Things like that, okay? Now, when we come back, because we won't be here next week, we'll have this table set up and we will go through the mock of this. Now, yes. Huh? Next week, me and Pastor Ben gonna be in Oxford. Is it C.A. Billinger? E.W. Billinger, yes. Okay? Right. Now, Numbers in the Scriptures, and we're going to go through, because we're going to go through that book, just looking at some patterns, okay? Even the pattern of the gestation of every animal on the planet is in numerical value of 7. Is that crazy? Like from your time you get pregnant to the time you have a child is all of the divisions of 7, every animal. You know what I mean? It's either like 21 days or, you know what I mean? So, and it's like everything God has a pattern. Nothing God made is out of order. You understand? So we'll look at that. And that's something that I thought was remarkable in Billinger's work, was that even music is 7 keys and then the 8th, right?
Oh, yeah.
And the 8th is a little higher, but the same as the 1, right? So everything begins like that with the 8th. So it's like God created everything in this pattern.
But man wrote the Bible.
Yeah, of course. You're smart. He's so smart. Okay, we just finished this study here, which is Esther, right?
Right, we finished that last week.
Yes. We finished Hosea, Esther, and Germany, and the connection. We did the 2 Adams, right?
Right.
Okay. And your job is now, let's see, door. Okay. Our next study is going to be page 28, Jesus the Door. Okay, that's only 2 pages, but I want you guys to go through it and study it, and then I'll give Pastor Ben the mock restaurant visit so that you guys will be as ready as possible. Then maybe we'll have our meal that Pastor Ben sets up. Maybe we'll have you guys order instead, and you can order in Hebrew. And you can ask for your bill, or you can say that you're finished.
Yes, ask for the bill, please.
Yeah. And everything, okay? So, and then after we do the restaurant, we're gonna do a situational event in Hebrew. So like if you're at the airport, you know how to ask for your ticket. You know how to order, you know how to rent a car, you know. And then next week we'll do, you're at a kibbutz and you want to buy vegetables, and how to, you know, say things like that. So as we go little, you can like every situation that when you're going through the Hebrew, somebody say, and then you like, what's that? You know, they want to see your passport, you know, and they want to see your plane ticket. Okay? So then you'll learn all the Hebrew words for things that you should know. Okay? And that's it for today. And I need you to study page 28. Read through that. And I think it's only page 28 and 29. And then Pastor Ben will give you the copy of the restaurant conversation, and then learn it as well as you possibly can. It's very simple. The conversation, maybe it's not as simple because there's 2 different conversations. There's one where they're finished, and one you can tell somebody that you're treating them. My name is Mom. Okay, I have it. You know, I'm gonna pay for it. I'm treating you. In different things, but then there's another one where it's hard for you to choose what you want to eat. You ask the waitress, what does she recommend? You know what I mean? So, so that'll be it for next week. That's it.